Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final JAWS webinar of the year from APH and Vispero. You have joined us today for Collaboration Station, how to track changes and comments with JAWS. Thank you for joining us today. Again, this is the last JAWS webinar of the year. And as we get started, we have our poll questions we're going to toss out for you today. Again, just as a reminder, you're here for Collaboration Station, how to track changes and comments with JAWS. So as you prepare to learn about this topic today, we have our basic demographic questions we always ask you. We want to know where you are from, your job title, and how you heard about this webinar. And then our content specific questions. First thing we'd like you to do is rate your level of experience using Microsoft Word. How comfortable are you with Microsoft Word? Are you a beginner, an intermediate, an advanced, or a Jedi? And then we want to know, have you used track changes or comments before? Yes, and I'm comfortable using these tools. Yes, but I need some pointers. No, I've never encountered these tools. No, I don't use these tools because they're complicated. Whatever the answer is, we know they're complicated, which is why we're doing this today. So let's move on to our ground rules of housekeeping for today. Please place those questions in the chat. We anticipate that there's going to be a lot of questions today because this is material that may be new for a lot of folks. Please make sure those questions get in the chat. We have 1.5 hours ACV REP credit and closed captioning for you today. You'll get your code for ACV REP credit shortly. Our presenter, as always on these JAWS webinars, is Elizabeth Whitaker, technical writer for Vispero. I appreciate her joining us once again and taking on this rather difficult topic. Challenges, these are things that probably resonate with you. They certainly resonate with me. Many people are very uncomfortable using track changes or comments in a document because they're complicated, they're difficult to deal with. Sometimes we get confused as to what the differences are between them. We'll cover all those topics here shortly. There's a perception that track changes and comments are too visual for JAWS users to navigate. And depending on your work or your school environment, you may never have encountered track changes or comments before. Or maybe if you're like me, you've encountered them constantly, and they've been a source of difficulty and a bit of discomfort. Let's talk about our learning objectives for today. So we're going to contrast the differences between track changes and comments. We'll identify the 5 keystrokes for navigating revisions with JAWS. We'll review 2 steps for navigating comments with JAWS. We'll name 1 keyboard command for toggling track changes on and off. And I hope you're looking forward to this as much as I am today, because this is a learning experience for me. If I were not out here doing the intros, I would be in the audience today. Very important topic for every Microsoft Word user. Doesn't matter if you're a student, a teacher, an adult consumer. These are topics that we all need to be familiar with, because at some point in time, we're going to have to deal with them, whether we want to or we don't. Everybody else loves using these features, so we have to get ourselves up to speed on them.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys. I love being here as always. And this is an interesting topic today because, as Paul was saying, this is one of those features that, people usually or typically only use when they have to. So students might use this. I don't know how many, and you guys can tell me this, TBIs out there, I don't know how many K through 12 students are using it, but I know in college it's frequently used. And then in the workplace, it is frequently used. So there's just so many reasons to use track changes. Whether you have changes that you are tracking, your own changes, whether you're collaborating on a document, someone is reviewing it and making suggestions. So it's just one of those things that, one of those features that I think is probably not talked about a whole lot, probably not enough. So today we're going to be talking about how to use track changes, how to navigate those changes, and how to use comments and some differences. So let's get into what we're going to cover. So we're going to start out by talking about the track changes feature and comments and differentiating between the two. I'm going to tell you and show you how to enable track changes, how to navigate them, how to accept or reject changes, how to keep them turned on, how to add comments, read comments, reply, and delete comments. So lots of stuff we're going to be covering. Let's just go ahead and delve right in and talk about using track changes and comments with JAWS. So track changes let you view changes in a document, whether they're changes that you've made or another collaborator has made. These include changes to both text and the formatting of a document. Now, Word will display the changes in different colors and styles to differentiate them from other text. We're not going to get into that as much, although I will talk about a little bit of the visual aspects of this, just especially for JAWS users who may not know what's going on the screen. Now, you can use comments to make suggestions in a document without actually changing the text. And I think comments are probably, maybe a little bit easier to work with in terms of reading them and knowing where they are than revisions. But it's really important to know how to navigate these revisions. And you can reply to comments, you can delete them, and you can resolve them. And I'm going to get to that when we get to that slide. I'll tell you a little bit about resolving comments because I thought that was an interesting feature there for comments. Now, I'm going to be giving you guys a whole lot of keyboard commands here, but two things. Number one, there is a handout available that you can download that has all of them in it and has all of these tasks step by step. And number two, I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can look up these keyboard commands as you're going through this. All right, so let's move on now to enabling track changes. I'm going to talk through these slides and then I'm going to demonstrate for you. So I'll be sharing my screen some as well. Okay, so there are a couple ways to enable track changes. You can do it from the ribbon, but I like the keyboard command. Microsoft has put a very nice has included a very nice keyboard command, which is Control-Shift-E. That's Control-Shift-E, echo. And that will turn track changes on in a document. By default, track changes is off. So Word will track those changes once you turn it on. And you have to turn it on for each document you want to track. So if you open a document and you turn on track changes, and then you open another document, track changes is going to be off by default for that document, unless you have it set differently. You use the same keyboard command to turn it off. So Control-Shift-E, echo, turns it on and turns it off. So we call that a toggle. And when you turn track changes off, it'll stop tracking your changes, but the markup from previously tracked changes will remain in the document. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So by default, Word assigns a different color for the insertions, the deletions, and the formatting changes for each reviewer or collaborator. And it'll mark the deletions with a strike through and insertions with an underline. Now, if you're using track changes and you turn it off, as I said, the Word will stop, tracking those changes. But those marks that we were just talking about, those strike throughs and underlines, will remain until you either accept or reject those changes. So you can choose how you want to show track changes in Word, and I'm going to demonstrate all this here in just a second. But you're going to use a keyboard command that's another Word keyboard command. I'll differentiate which ones of these, which commands are JAWS and which ones are Word. So far, Control-Shift-E is a Word command. This one is a Word command. It's a ribbon command. So you're going to press Alt-R, T as in Tango, and then D as in Delta, which expands that markup menu. And then you have different choices. So you have simple markup, which is the default. And that indicates changes with a vertical line in the margin of your document. When you have it set to simple markup, JAWS will announce the change at the beginning of the paragraph where it occurs. No markup is another option, and that hides the markup indicators and shows you what those changes will look like if you accept them. All markup shows all edits using different colors of text and markup lines, and JAWS announces the change in its type where it occurs. So for example, if you've got some formatting revision, JAWS will read the details of that formatting change. The next option is original, and that actually shows a document. It's an original form without displaying the changes. And so those are your options in that menu. We're going to go through that, and we're actually going to turn it. We're going to change that setting. All right. You can also select the type of changes that are tracked, and I'll explain what I mean by that here in just a second. To do that, you're going to press Alt-R, T, and then M as in Mary to display the markup menu. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to share a document. Let's start out by pressing that keyboard command, Control-Shift-E.
Control-Shift-E, track changes on.
And that turned track changes on. I'm going to slow this down just a tad bit.
Slower.
Okay, so I can press it again if I want to turn track changes off.
Control-Shift-E, track changes off.
So that turns it off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on.
Control-Shift-E, track changes on.
All right, so it's Control-Shift-E as an echo. All right, now for those two menus that we were talking about, I'm going to press Alt-R.
Alt-R, upper ribbon, review tab, Alt followed by
T,
T,
and D.
D, list box, display for review list box, simple markup button selected.
So it said simple markup button selected. Now I can tab here or I can arrow. I'm going to down arrow.
All markup button selected.
There's all.
No markup button selected. Original button selected. Simple markup button selected.
Now JAWS says so it's saying selected after each choice because as the cursor moves to each choice, it selects it. So they're not all selected, just the one that the focus is currently on. Let's go down to all.
All markup button selected.
And I'm going to press enter.
Enter, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit.
So that's a matter of personal choice. In simple markup, JAWS is going to announce the revision at the beginning of the paragraph. I want it to announce the revision where it occurs. All right, so let's choose what changes we get to view here. So I'm going to press Alt-R.
Alt-R, up.
T.
T.
And M as in Mary.
M, menu, leaving menus, comments checked, Alt followed by R, TMs.
All right, so it gives you different commands here. So you could check or uncheck these options by using just the keyboard, but here we're just going to tab through them. So comments are checked. We definitely want to see the comments. If I wanted to uncheck it, I could press enter here. I can tab again.
Insertions and deletions checked, Alt.
Insertions or deletions checked. I'm sorry, I hit control. Let's try this again. I want it to announce.
Insertions and deletions checked.
Oh, it didn't.
Insertions and deletions checked. Alt followed by R, T, M, I.
So it said Alt followed by R, T, M, and then I. So if you just wanted to check or uncheck that, you could use that keyboard command. That's just a little bit of information for you there. I like to tab through these menus and check what is selected. So I'll tab again.
Formatting checked. Alt followed by R, T, M, F. So
right now, the three things that are checked here are comments, revisions, and formatting. So any changes made, any comments made, any revisions and formatting, all of that stuff is going to be, we're going to be able to view
Balloon submenu. Balloons choose how to show revisions to the document.
So this is a submenu that you can show visually how you want the information to appear.
Specific people submenu.
This is where you can go. Well, let's press right arrow to expand this.
All reviewers checked.
So right now it's set to all reviewers.
Elizabeth Whitaker checked.
It's set to me.
Deborah Sally checked.
And that's Deb. She made some changes to this document and she's checked. So what you can do here is if you had several reviewers.
All reviewers checked. Alt.
And it is conceivable that could happen. if you had several reviewers and you want to just hone in on something that the revisions that one person made, or maybe just their comments, you can choose a person here in the list. All the reviewers will show up here. How does it know who has reviewed this document? Well, with Microsoft Office, you can, you sign in, you have a Microsoft account and you sign in. And so that is how it knows who reviewed the document. All right, so I'm going to press left arrow to collapse this menu.
Specific people submenu. Specific.
And I'll tab again.
Highlight updates checked. Other authors unavailable. Alt comments checked. Alt.
So we're back to comments. So there's just some options there that are interesting that you can check out. So I'm going to press escape to get out of here.
Escape, leaving menus, menu, upper rib, escape, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I do believe we have a poll question.
Meeting, start job log, meeting.
All right, let's get to it. This is our first poll question for today. We want to know, what is the word keystroke for turning track changes on and off? Again, this is a word keystroke, not a JAWS keystroke. What is the correct answer? Is it Control plus E? Is it Shift plus T? Control plus Shift plus E? Or Control plus Shift plus T? Which one of those is the word keystroke to turn this feature on and off?
And we can also take some questions from the audience at this point. So I'm going to go back to the first one that came in. So Elizabeth, lots of interest in learning about track changes and comments on other platforms. So does any of what you're talking about today apply to Google Docs?
So yes and no. The commands are going to be very different. They're like, for example, using comments in Google Docs is a very different process. So if you have specific questions, that may definitely be something that we're going to cover in the future for sure. But if you have questions about those things now, send us an email, and we'll give you this email address again before we leave today, but it's training@vispero.com. So that's training, training @Vispero. That's Victor, India, Sierra, Papa, Echo, Romeo, Oscar.com. So send us an email and we'll definitely send you some information, some steps for doing that.
Great, thank you. Because another question had come in also about application on Mac with VoiceOver, which whole other can of worms.
Yeah,
but it's certainly something that you might want to check. Apple, they do have lots of accessible resources. You might want to check on their website for any documentation of keystrokes and commands for tracking changes and comments in their documents.
Yeah, because their keyboard commands are definitely going to be very specific to that platform.
Great. All right. Well, we've had some good participation in this poll question.
All right.
Of the 4 possible choices, one clearly rose to the top, and that's 82% said Control plus Shift plus E. Now, Elizabeth, what was the correct response?
That's it. Control
Excellent.
Shift E.
All right,
Great job.
I'm in the poll, and I can hand it. I can move to the next slide, which is navigate track changes.
All right, let's do it.
Great.
All right, so there are lots of ways to navigate track changes. JAWS will read the changes in the document as you navigate. So as you read a document, it will tell you what's inserted or deleted or a change or comment. It'll read that information. Now, that, and I'll show you how to do that. That is absolutely fine as far as reading the document, but there are other ways that will enable you to hone in on those changes and read them one at a time, or really get down to exactly what that change is. Because sometimes when you're reading those documents, I think this is where this gets a little confusing, or it can, because you have all these different changes and JAWS is constantly saying insertion, revised, deletion, things like that. So just know that there are definitely other ways of checking out those changes. Now, reading them in the document is a good thing, because there are things that you can do while you're reading through your document. So by no means am I saying don't do that. You can also read them in the reviewing pane with the arrow keys, and you can also display changes in the JAWS virtual viewer. And, you know, again, you can navigate using the arrow keys, and I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so you have a reviewing pane, and you can opt to show all changes in the reviewing pane by pressing Alt-R, T, and P. That expands the pane. You can press H or V. H expands it horizontally and V is vertically. And that's, I have found, I feel like it's easier if it's vertical, but again, that's personal preference, but I feel like it's easier to navigate in some ways if it's vertical, and I'll show you that. To close that pane, you're going to press Alt-R, T, then P, and then Enter, and that closes the reviewing pane. Now, when I'm giving you these commands too, and I want to make this distinction, when it says, you know, press Alt-R, T, P, sometimes you can press Alt and R together, and then T and then P separately, and that's the case with any of these ribbon commands that I'm giving you. If you find that's not working, then try them separately. Press Alt followed by R, followed by T, followed by P. So just keep that in mind. If any of those ribbon commands aren't working for you, try pressing them all separately, those first two separately. All right, so to show all changes in the JAWS virtual viewer, you're going to press Windows key plus semicolon. And then you have some options, and I'll show you that. And JAWS will read the change in its details. And in revisions, it'll read the text, whether like if it was deleted or inserted. And when you're on a change, you can press Enter to navigate to that place in the document. And then to show all changes in the JAWS revisions window, you can press Insert Shift R. And if track changes is turned off, JAWS will prompt you to turn it on. And in that case, the revisions window, of course, doesn't open. You have to turn it on and then try that command again. So once again, that command is Insert Shift R. Sorry, I had to make sure about that. Insert Shift R. There's so many commands here, but they are all in that handout, like I said. So I'm going to show you guys how to do all this here in just a second. You can also use quick navigation keys, which we'll talk about. You guys, if you're familiar with navigating the web, you'll be familiar with those. So I'll show you how to do that. And then you can also press Control Insert R to announce a revision at the current cursor location. So just again, a lot of different commands here that we can use. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just show you how these work. Oh, wait, let me fix the, all right, now let me try this.
Meeting and use track check blog post.
All right,
Edit.
are we, you guys hear that?
We can.
All right, great. Okay, so if you want to display, so we can just read, let me jump to a change here. I'm kind of doing this backwards, but let me jump to a change. So if you press Insert Z, this is going to turn quick navigation keys on or off. It's a toggle, just like you do on the internet when Insert Z turns on the virtual cursor and off, turns it on and off. Let's turn on quick navigation keys.
Quick keys on.
And I can navigate through the changes here by pressing R.
Blank insertion. Blank, a web-based learning management insertion as comment system insertion and insertion. Blank insertion, a web-based learning management insertion as comment system insertion.
So as you can see, JAWS is going to announce these things, and you can press Shift R to go back.
Blank insertion.
And it'll go back a change at a time. So I'm going to turn quick nav keys off.
Quick keys off.
And I just want to show you what happens. Let's go. I'm going to press up arrow and go to the line above.
Google Workspace applications and Canvas LMS insertion and insertion. Insertion, a web-based learning management. Insertion as comment system. Insertion and insertion.
So as you can see, JAWS can become very verbose at this point. There is absolutely nothing wrong with reading through these. I just feel like some of these other commands that allow you to use the pane and things like that really give you a lot of information. So I'm going to go to the top of the document here.
Top of file. Heading.
All right, so I'm going to press Alt-R.
Alt-R. Upper ribbon.
T.
T.
P.
P. Tracking toolbar. Reviewing pane. 1 of 5.
All right, so it said 1 of 5. That lets me know there are 5 changes.
Reviewing pane vertical ... Alt followed by R. T. P. V.
Okay, so there's vertical.
Reviewing pane horizontal ...
And horizontal. Okay, so I'm sorry, I wasn't in that space yet. So when you do Alt-R, T, P, then you can choose vertical or horizontal. I'm going to choose vertical.
Reviewing pane vertical ...
I'll press Enter.
Enter. Leaving menus. Revisions. Show detailed summary button.
All right, so it says Show Detailed Summary.
Refresh reviewing pane button.
And I'm down arrowing here, and we can refresh the pane.
Microsoft Word document. Edit.
And here we are in the list of revisions, and I can just use my arrow keys.
Elizabeth Whitaker inserted.
What happened there is I accidentally inserted an enter, a blank line where I didn't mean to. And I know that because it was an accident earlier, but I left it there because we're going to change that here in a minute.
Blank. Deborah Sally inserted. A web-based learning management system.
So that reads that change to me, that revision that she made to the text. It was a suggestion that she made.
Blank. Deborah Sally commented. Recommend adding this info.
All right, so that reads the comment.
Blank. Elizabeth Whitaker commented. Great info, thank you.
So it's going to read the comments, it's going to read the replies, it's going to read all the changes here. All right, so I'm going to press Alt-R.
Alt-R.
Oh.
Escape. Revision.
Let's try this again. Alt-R. I pressed Escape to get out of that. Press Alt-R.
Alt-R. Microsoft Word. R. T. P. Menu. Leave Enter. Leaving menus.
All right.
Heading left.
So that was one of those situations I was talking about earlier. If Alt-R didn't work, if that doesn't work for you, press Alt by itself, then R, then T, then P. And again, that works for all of these ribbon commands. Okay, so now let's do this a different way. I'm going to press Windows semicolon.
Microsoft Word document. Items to display in virtual viewer dialog. List 1, list view, comments.
So here we have a choice. We can look at just the comments.
Footnotes, endnotes, revisions.
Footnotes, endnotes, or revisions. Let's press Enter on revisions.
Enter. Please wait. Processing revisions. There are 4 revisions in this document. Edit.
All right, so here we have, again, we have them displayed.
There are 4 blank. Link 1 inserted text Elizabeth Whitaker 2. Deck 14. 21.
All right, so notice there it said link. What that means is I can press Enter.
Enter. Insert Google.
And it takes me to that place in my document. And I'm going to find where I inserted that blank line. I'm going to delete it.
Google Workspace Applications and Canvas LMS. Insertion. LMS. Blank. S. Blank. Insertion. Left space. Blank.
All right.
And insertion. Left parent. Space.
All right. So let's go back to, let's do Windows semicolon.
JAWS version 2000.
I'm going to go down to revisions.
And revisions. Enter. Please wait. Processing revisions. There are 3 revisions in this document. Blank. There are 3 blank. Link 1, the web-based learning management system.
So it took that out as a revision because I went ahead and took that away. I changed it. All right. So that is how you can display revisions. That's another way you can display them. I like that way personally because you can press Enter and go straight to that place in the document.
Escape and insertion. Google.
Now, if I'm on, let me do that. Let me go back to a particular change here. Let's see. Okay, so let's press Insert Shift R. Let's try this one.
Please wait. Processing 3 items. JAWS version 2000. Inserted text Deborah Sally, a web-based learning management system.
And so what that does is if you just want to go straight to the revisions, that lets you go straight to the revisions instead of having to choose comments, revisions, endnotes, or footnotes. So if I want to go to this particular place in the document,
And a web-based learning management system inserted text Deborah Sally Mon, Deck 13, 21.
and notice it said who, it read the insertion, it said who inserted it and when. I'll press enter.
Enter, a web-based learning management system.
And now I'll give you one more keyboard command, and I will show you at the end, I'll show you some ways to get to these. But insert Control R.
A web-based learning management system inserted text revised by Deborah Sally on Mon, Deck 13, 21.
So the reason I wanted to show you that is because if you're reading your document line by line and you want to know what that change or that revision was, you can navigate to it with your cursor, and then you can press Insert Control R. So lots of information there to be mindful of. But if you want to get a list of revisions, it's Insert Shift R. And if you want to read a revision at a specific location where your cursor is currently located, you press Control Insert R. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That was a whole lot of information there.
JAWS meeting,
And I
meeting
keep
control.
going past it. Okay.
Alt S.
All right, so I think we have another poll question, don't we? And then we can take some
Yep.
questions as well. Great.
All
We
right.
do.
Yes, we have another poll question ready for you. This time we want to know, what is the keystroke for announcing the revision at the cursor location? Your choices are Control plus R, Control plus Shift plus R, Insert plus R, or Control plus Insert plus R. And while we get ready for questions, I have one of my own, actually.
Mhm.
So you had that one revision that was an extra enter key that you pressed.
Mhm.
So now, did you get rid of that by just deleting it, or did you use the revision dialog and then get rid of it that way? I guess there's a couple ways you can get rid of that, right?
Well, that's an excellent question. You actually have to go back and change. The reason that enter was there is because when I was in that first dialogue this morning, I thought, I want to know if I can press enter from the review pane and go directly to a change. And what it did is it actually placed an enter in the document. So what I did just now is I went back to where that enter, that blank line was in the document, and deleted it from there. And now, yes, you can reject a change that is made. So that would get rid of it as well.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah,
Good.
you
So
can do
there's
it two
multiple
ways.
ways you can do it. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So we did have a question about hiding all changes, but I believe we're going to get to that later.
We are.
Great. So we will address that then. So the next question is,
Yeah.
can you please tell us how JAWS behaves when a comment or revision is found in a document? And more specifically, while you are reading on a display, how is the change showing?
Now, does that mean a Braille display?
I would think so, because
I
I
would
was thinking
think-
about that too. Like,
yeah.
how would it show it?
It'll mark it as underlined is what it'll do. You'll have dots that mark that will indicate, beneath your Braille that indicate that it's underlined. JAWS will, so when you're on a comment, JAWS will say has comment, but there are ways to get to that comment. Of course, I'll be showing you how to do that here in just a little bit.
Great, thank you. So those are all the questions for now.
Okay.
So let's go back to the poll question. We've had great response so
Great.
far. For the 4 available options, the majority at 59% chose Control plus Insert plus R as the keystroke for announcing the revision at the cursor location. Elizabeth, what is the correct response?
That's it.
Woo!
Yeah.
Excellent work, everyone. We're gonna end
That's
that
great.
poll.
Especially since I gave you guys so many keyboard commands there.
Yes, and we do that, the handout, I've dropped the link several times in the chat, but I can drop it again. All of those keystrokes are listed in the document on our website.
Great.
So our next slide is accept or reject changes.
All right. Yes. So the way you remove a change in a document is by accepting or rejecting it. You can accept one change or reject one change at a time, or you can do them all at once. So, sometimes you may want to go through them one at a time, or you may just want to read through a document and say, yeah, I like all these revisions. I want to accept them all. And of course, you can accept and reject changes using the keyboard. So to accept a single change, I'm going to demonstrate some of these for you, and some of them I'm just going to go through real quick here. So you're going to navigate to where that change is, and you're going to press Shift F10 or the applications key to open the applications, the context menu. You're going to press Shift F10 or the applications key to open the context menu. And you can either arrow down to accept, or you can press E. And when you do that, if you arrow down to accept and you press enter, focus goes back to the document. And same with when you press E. And you can also press Alt R A2 and then the letter M. So that's a lot that's the ribbon command. It's Alt R A2 M as in Mary. The benefit of using that command is that it accepts a change and goes to the next one. All right, so rejecting a single change is very similar. You can go to the change and then you press Shift F10 and press down arrow, or you can press R to reject it, or you can press down arrow to reject and press enter. It takes you back to your document. And alternatively, you can press Alt R J and then enter to reject the change and then go ahead and move to the next one. All right. Now you can accept all changes by pressing Alt R A2 L. That's Alt R A2 L. I always have to look these up, by the way, almost always, and I use track changes a lot, but and then of course focus returns to your document. You can reject all changes by pressing Alt R J and L. That one's a whole lot easier. Alt R J and L. Now, if you press, for example, Alt R A2, and from there you can tab and you have selections. You have, accept this change, accept all changes. So you can make the choice from there. You don't have to remember that last L there. All right, so I'm going to share again here. And I'm going to show you how to do this.
Desktop.
All right.
Used blog post November.
So I'm back here in this document.
Top of file. Heading level 1 November.
All right. So I'm going to find the first change here. I'm going to go ahead and do that with those quick nav keys. This is where it's really easy to use those. I'm going to press Insert Z to turn on quick nav.
Quick keys on.
And I'm going to press R.
Blank. She likes these products because they give her access to Microsoft apps like Word. Blank. She likes the blank. I'm able to do all of the assignments and access.
Actually, I'm looking for a specific
blank.
one.
She likes these blank. She likes.
All right.
Quick.
I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to go into, let's use this keyboard command. Insert Shift R.
Please wait. Processing 3 items. Inserted text. Deborah Sally.
All right, so let's go to what Deb inserted here. I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Right parent. Edit.
All right, so if I want to accept this change, I can press Shift F10 or the applications key.
Applications.
And I could press E, but let's down arrow.
Copy of accept insertion. E.
And it says accept insertion. We can go down here.
Reject insertion. R.
There's reject insertion. We want to accept it, so let's go back up.
Accept insertion. E.
I could enter.
Enter. Leaving menus. Print view. Edit.
And there we go. And now if I read this line with insert up arrow.
Google Workspace Applications and Canvas LMS. Insertion. A web-based learning management. Insertion as comment system.
So it still reads that change, but I've accepted that change. All right, so let's go to the next one. I'm going to use that keyboard command again, that Insert Shift R.
Please wait. Processing 2 items.
All right, so here we have 2 items.
a web-based learning management system. Inserted text, Deborah Sally Mon, Deck 13.
And this change happened to be that I left off a quotation mark here. I'm going to press enter.
Enter, right quote, edit.
So if I wanted to reject a change, I could press Shift F10 or the applications key again.
Applications.
And I could down arrow to reject.
Accept, reject insertion.
And, or I could use that other command.
Escape, edit.
Alt-R.
Alt-R, upper ribbon, review, J, menu, leaving menus, reject, enter, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, print view, edit.
And so it's Alt-R followed by J followed by enter. All right, and again, if you want to accept all changes, this is the one I was going to show you too. You can press Alt-R.
Alt-R, upper ribbon.
A.
2, menu, leaving menus, accept and move to next, Alt followed by R, a 2, M.
So here we have commands that said accept and move to next, and it gave you the command for that. I'm going to press Tab.
Accept this change, Alt followed by R, a 2, C.
And that would be, we could press enter on any of these, by the way, if we wanted to actually accept those changes, but I just want to show you how to navigate this part.
Accept all changes shown unavailable. Accept all changes, Alt followed by R, a 2, L.
And if I press enter here.
Enter, leaving menus, upper ribbon, review tab, is escape.
All right, so let's see if what we have here, if we press that insert Shift R.
There are no revisions in the document.
All right, there are no revisions, but we will still have comments, and we're going to get to that, but let's see.
Items to display. Comment. Enter. Please wait. Processing comments. There are 3 comments in this document.
So I wanted to make sure we still had this. So you'll accept or reject the changes. I'm going to press escape.
Escape. These products.
And those changes will go away, but the comments will remain.
JAWS home meeting.
All right. So let me stop sharing
Alt S.
here. And do we have any questions?
Yes, we had a few questions come in.
Okay.
So, okay. This is a question from Amy. And this is going back to the question before, like right when we were answering that last poll question about the underline.
Uh-huh.
So if you have underline off in the Braille display settings in JAWS settings, you've got to turn that on. I often turn that off. So it depends on your JAWS settings. Boy, I hope that made sense.
It did, and that's a very good point.
Yeah, I know some TVIs turn on or off the Braille display settings in JAWS for readers who get mixed up by having .7 and 8 present.
Yeah, and that is an excellent point. We have discussed this recently, in fact, in another training, because, and I'm one of those Braille users, I just don't like to see the underline sometimes. However, yes, if you are using track changes in a Braille display, it may be one of those things where if you're using JAWS, if you're listening to speech and using the Braille, you might want to keep the underline off and just listen for it, or you can turn the underline on just when you're using track changes. But yeah, that is an excellent point. Thank you for making that.
Great. And one more question. When several people are reviewing a document and you accept a change, will others have a chance to still reject that change?
They should not, because that removes the change. That should remove those changes. So no, I don't think so. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. I think once you accept that change, I don't think anybody else could reject it. So
great, and we've got a few more questions coming in. Just want to be aware of time. We do have 45 minutes left.
Okay. I'll get through these last ones pretty quickly. Those were the longest segments.
Great, and then we can come back to these questions. So don't worry, we haven't forgotten you. We will come back to your questions. All right, so I'm on the lock tracking screen.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk through this one because it's and if you guys do want to see it, I'll go ahead and share it here in just a second, just to show you real quick. So lock tracking will prevent reviewers from turning off track changes in the document. And you create a password when you use this feature. And of course, you can use the keyboard to enable or disable it. So to enable it, you're going to press Alt-R, G, then L, and JAWS will let you know that you're in the lock tracking dialog and that it's enabled. And then focus will be in the password field. So you'll type a password and you'll press tab to locate the confirm password field and type that same password again. And then you can press enter to close that window and you return to your document. When track changes is locked, reviewers can review the changes, but they can't accept them, reject them, or turn off the feature. So to turn off lock tracking, you're going to use that same keyboard command. You're going to press Alt-R, G, then L, and JAWS will say unlock tracking. And then you'll be prompted with to enter your password, to be in that password field, and just type in your password and press enter. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you that super quickly. We're not going to create one here, but oh wait, I have to let me fix my speech here. You guys won't be able to hear it. All right.
Desk, use blog post.
All right.
Olivia.
So I am here in this document and I can press Alt-R.
Alt-R, upper ribbon.
G.
G, menu.
L.
L, leaving menus, upper ribbon, review tab, Alt+E, leaving menus, lock tracking, prevent other authors from turning off track changes, enter password optional edit, Alt+E.
Now it says it's optional here. I don't know what would happen. This is where I can enter a password.
Re-enter to confirm edit, Alt+R.
And then I could re-enter that password.
Okay, but
if I try to enter here, let's see what happens.
Enter, edit, student of the.
All right, so it acted like it activated it. So let's go back to Alt-R.
Alt-R.
Then G.
G, menu.
Then L.
L, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, edit. Blind or visual student of.
That's interesting. All right, so it didn't say anything. Let's try it again.
Alt-R, upper G, L, leaving menus, upper ribbon, review tab, Alt+E, leaving menus, lock tracking, lock.
Okay, so it's back in the lock tracking thing here. It probably unlocked it, but it didn't prompt me for a password. So that would mean other users could unlock it. So you have to use a password if you don't want other people to be able to unlock the tracking. But if I had a password, and I went there again, it would prompt me to enter it. I'll press escape to get out of that.
Escape, edit.
So that's how you use lock tracking.
Meeting.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. And let's talk about, let's see. Do we have any more questions about revisions before we move to the comments?
Yes. So going back just slightly, how do you insert text in the document so it shows up as a revision? Do you need to do anything specific?
No. So what happens is if you turn on track changes, as you change your text, as you add things, it will show up as a different color, but JAWS will know that it's an insertion, a deletion, or a formatting change or something like that. So you just turn on track changes and you type. And I will say this, I didn't really talk about this at the beginning, but it's worth mentioning, this is, of course, used in school. I used it in graduate school. We had to use track changes for our thesis so that our professor could see all of the changes we had made. Of course, we use it in the workplaces, and some people collaborate with, you might have as many as 100 people looking at a document and have a lot of changes in a document. So knowing these keyboard commands and just being able to get around in a document with track changes is really important. But to answer your question, no, it should just know that that's a change. It should pick up on that, recognize it.
Great. We've had another comment saying it might be useful if you could kindly report the substitute for the commands using the insert key for folks who are using a laptop keyboard, especially the equivalent command that does not use the caps lock key. Thank you.
Which command is so with a laptop, and that's a good idea. Thank you. The laptop, your caps lock is insert. Now I'm not, if you'd like to comment again on which key command you're talking about that you said does not use the caps lock key. But yeah, if you have JAWS set to laptop layout, then your caps lock key is going to be your insert key.
Great, that's good to know. And
Yes.
Panagiotis, if there's anything else you needed to clarify, please let us know in the chat. But
Yes.
we're going to go on to Leslie's question.
Okay.
So back when you were moving from one revision to another in the doc, were you using your arrow keys?
Yes. So I did both. I arrowed down. I just kept pressing down arrow, and you can use any of those reading commands, your arrow keys, control, right and left arrow to go word at a time, up and down arrow to go line at a time. Or you can turn on quick nav keys with insert Z, and then you press R to move from one revision to the next, or shift R to move to the previous revision. And then you can turn those quick nav keys off by pressing insert Z once more. So lots of methods here. Pretty much it's personal choice, or what happens to be easier at any given time. Which one is easier for you to do to get to where you need to be faster.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think with that, we end all of the questions about revisions before we move on to comments.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to talk about adding comments?
I think we are.
Okay. So comments provide information without adding text to your document. So they don't alter the document text at all. You can use comments for asking questions, requesting clarification on something, making a suggestion, maybe clarifying why you made a certain revision, something like that. And you can, of course, add a comment using the keyboard. So to add a comment, you can do a couple things. You're going to navigate to the location in the document where you want to insert the comment. You can select the text you want to comment on. You don't have to, but you can. You can use, shift down arrow for a line, or shift control right arrow for one word at a time. You can also just place the cursor at the location where you want to add the comment. And JAWS will indicate there is a comment at that particular location. When you're reading the line, it'll say has comment. So to add a comment, you're going to press Control-Alt-M, and that opens the new comment box. And that area is actually called the side track, and it's located alongside the page, just to give you a visual reference there. When you open this box, you just type your comment, and then you press Escape, and Focus will take you to the location where you left off, and Word saves the comment automatically. All right, so let me share my screen here, and I will show you how to do that.
Use blog post November.
All right.
Top of file heading level.
So if I want to add a comment here, I can.
The Freedom Scientific Student of the Month program features K-12 students living in the U.S. who are.
All right. So
home.
I'm just going to make something up here. I'm going to add the comment at the beginning of this line. I'm going to press Alt-Control-M as in Mary.
Comment pane. Elizabeth Whitaker comment edit.
And it says my name, and it opens the comment pane, and then I can just type
space.
Let's see.
This. R-E-N-D space E-R-X-O. Users R-E-A-D-R-S-T-T-A-N-O-I-T-U-D-T period.
All right, so now I can read that with insert up arrow. And once again, I'm glad you mentioned this, the laptop commands, I'm just using caps lock up arrow.
This reminds readers how to nominate a student.
And let me,
there
we go.
E-R. This reminds H-T-A-I-S space R-I-A-T.
All right, and then I can press Escape.
Escape selected, has comment.
And notice it said has comment. So if I go up a line,
heading level,
down a line,
has comment, the Freedom Scientific Student of the Month program.
And there we go. That's how you add a comment. So next we're going to talk about how to navigate those comments, so we'll find that comment in the list. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Alt-S.
And why don't we go on to the next slide on reading comments. This one is kind of, I'm going to share two different times with you guys on this slide because there's a lot on this slide, and then we can ask questions, but I'm going to show you guys a lot about how to navigate. All right. So JAWS announces comments as you read the document, as you notice, because it said it there when I added the comment. You can read a list of comments with JAWS without actually reading the associated text, which is nice, just as we did with revisions. And JAWS will read the comment and speaks who left it and when. And you may have noticed that as well when I created the comment. So you can use, remember we used all markup mode. That if you're using all markup mode, JAWS will announce comments as you are reading the document. And we won't go through this again, but just to remind you how to turn that on, you're going to activate that mode by pressing Alt-R, T, and D to expand the markup menu. And then you're going to press Enter on all markup, which I did earlier. All right. So reading a list of all comments, actually, I'm just going to go on to this next part. I'm not going to share right now. So you can read a list of all the comments in a couple of different ways. You can press Control Shift apostrophe, and that's a JAWS command. And that opens a list of comments. That's Control Shift apostrophe. And JAWS will read each comment plus who left it, and you can just arrow up and down through those comments. And if any of those comments have replies, those replies will follow the original comment and it'll say reply, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you can press Escape to exit that dialog, and that closes the JAWS virtual viewer and takes you back to your document. You can also press Enter on a comment, just like we did revisions. And if you do that, it takes you to that place in the document and places focus on that comment. All right, so lots of different ways to navigate among comments here, just like revisions. You can move to the next comment from where you are by pressing Alt-R-N, and I'll show you how that works. You can move to the previous thread by pressing Alt-R-V. And when you use these commands, the focus will navigate to the sidetrack into the comment pane if it's open. And so, like I said, I'll show you that. You can also, and I like this command very much. You can also use this command. It's Alt-Shift apostrophe, and that reads the command that's at the insertion point. So, you know, we had one for revisions. Now we have one for comments. If you're on a comment and JAWS says has comment, you can use that Alt-Shift apostrophe to read that. And you can also virtualize that information, and I'll show you how to do that as well and tell you what I mean by that. Okay, so that's a lot of information. Let me share my screen, and I will remind you once again that all these commands and everything are in the handout that you can download.
Desktop.
All right.
Blog post November.
So
Edit.
here we are back in our document. I'm going to the top.
Top of file. And
I'm going to down arrow, and JAWS is going to say has comment.
Has comment, the Freedom Scientific Student of the Month program.
All right. So now if I press Alt-Shift apostrophe.
Comment, remind readers how to nominate a student by Elizabeth Whitaker.
All right. So it read that to me. Now, and this works as well with the revision command. If you press that revision command where it reads the revision at the current location, that insert Control R, if you press that twice quickly, if you hold down insert and control and press R twice quickly, it brings that particular information up in the virtual viewer so you can read it like a word at a time, and you just press escape to get out of that. Well, the same is true here. I'm going to press Alt-Shift apostrophe, but I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift and press apostrophe twice quickly. So Alt-Shift, apostrophe, apostrophe.
Comment, remind readers how to nominate a student, period.
So now this is in the virtual viewer, which means I can read it
Comment,
with my arrow keys. I can press down arrow.
remind readers how to nominate a student by Elizabeth Whitaker, blank, blank, document text.
And that reads that comment to me. So I'm going to press escape.
Escape has comment.
All right. So, yeah. All right. So sorry, I lost track of what I was trying to remember a command. Control Shift apostrophe.
Please wait, processing 4 items. JAWS version 2022.2110.
All right, so now we have a list of comments.
Remind readers how to nominate a student. Elizabeth Whitaker 2, Deck 14, 21.
And I could down arrow here.
Recommend adding this info. Deborah Sally.
And
reply. Great info. Thank you, Elizabeth Whitaker.
And as you can see, it read that reply.
Add closed quote.
And she said there from another one from Deb, add close quote. So again, I could press enter.
Enter, blank, edit.
And it takes me to that particular place in the document. And then I could try this other command here, this Alt Shift apostrophe.
No comment.
Oh, well, it's not on that comment then.
Blank, period.
So if I read the line.
Like Canvas, just like everyone has comment. Just like everyone has comment.
And what I did there is I read the line with down arrow. I pressed up arrow and then I hit down arrow to read the line. And I heard JAWS speak has comment after just like everyone. So I went to the beginning of the line with Control Home, and then I pressed Control right arrow to read one word at a time until JAWS spoke has comment. That is how you get to where the comment is located. And then you can press this Alt Shift apostrophe.
Comment, add closed quote.
And so I just wanted to demonstrate how to navigate among comments.
JAWS meeting control.
So I'm going to see if you guys have any questions.
Alt S.
All right. Let me get my screen back up. Excellent. And we have a poll question, Elizabeth. Can we launch that?
Oh, that's right.
Take some and then take some of the questions.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Worries.
So let's see. We are now talking about revision. So about comments. So what is the keystroke to list all comments in a document? Is it Control plus Shift plus apostrophe? Control plus apostrophe? Shift plus apostrophe? Insert plus apostrophe? How are we going to show all of those comments?
All right, and we're going to go back and we're going to pick up on any of the questions that we missed. So first one, do track changes have to be enabled in order to add comments to a document?
That's an excellent question. They do not.
Great. Not a question, but just a comment. This is such great info and seems very doable. Wish I would have known it years ago. Thanks, Liz.
Great, thank you. I'm glad you're finding it very helpful.
Then how to identify the specific sentence or sentences in a paragraph where a comment has been inserted?
Yeah, that's another really excellent question. So if you are whether you're reading the document with your arrow keys or you go through the comments list and you press enter on a comment, you can always press insert up arrow to read the current line, or as you're reading with your arrow keys, JAWS will say has comment. It'll say it on the line where the comment is located, and it'll say it right after the text. So if you said the Freedom Scientific Student of the Month program, and there was a comment right after that, JAWS would say has comment. And then you can navigate to that place and read that comment with that keyboard command that I gave you, that Alt Shift apostrophe. I'm going to get these confused if I'm not careful. Alt Shift apostrophe. So that reads the comment at your current cursor location.
All right, next question. Do these keyboard commands work in Excel too?
That's an excellent question. Hang on, let's take another one and let me open an Excel spreadsheet and see what happens. Because I don't
Alright.
ever use it in Excel. I think they will, but some of them may not, because I know like some of these don't work in Outlook. So I'm not sure that all of them will. But I'm opening a worksheet right now. And the comment command does not. Yeah, I don't know. Let me. No, it does not, because I try to turn on track changes and it just dings at me. So no. Yeah, we're gonna go with no, unless there's another way to do it.
Great. And then one more question. If I
Mhm.
reply to a comment and then want to edit or delete that reply, is there a way to do that?
There is, and we're gonna talk about that for sure.
Excellent. So
You're
we'll go
coming
back to
up.
our poll question. We've had great response. So the majority of 85% said the keystroke to list all comments in a document is Control+Shift plus apostrophe. Elizabeth, what was the correct response?
That's it. You guys are on fire today. That's awesome. Yep.
Great.
Control-Shift apostrophe.
All right. So we're going to move on to reply to comments.
All right. So, and there was a keyboard command I mentioned in the last section, and I didn't mention it because I'm going to come back to that, and because it's going to be very relevant here. All right. So let's talk about replying to comments. So you can reply to comments if you want to ask questions or provide clarification. Lots of different reasons to do that. And of course, you can use the keyboard. And as you probably noticed too, when we were navigating through the documents list, it read the reply right beneath the comment that I replied to. So we are going to reply to a comment. And to do that, you navigate to the comment that you want to reply to. You can use any of the methods that we've talked about. And then you're going to press Alt-R, N as in November. Alt-R, N. And that places focus in the comment pane. And this is where you can read comments and go through them. And I'll show you that. But then if you press Shift F10 or the applications key to open the context menu, you can press your down arrow key to find reply. You can press M as in Mary, and that'll activate the reply, or you can just down arrow to it. So you can do it either way. And after you press enter on reply, JAWS will say edit, which indicates that you can type your reply. And you just do that, and then you press escape to exit the comment pane, and that returns you to your document, and you're on that same comment wherever you left off in your document. Okay, so there are a couple other things you can do within this menu, and we're going to talk about deleting them here in just a minute, but this is a really neat feature. You can delete, or you can also resolve the comment. So resolving a comment keeps it in the text, but it shows that it's been resolved, that to indicate that there's no longer an issue or a question there. And this is helpful to other reviewers because it shows that, you know, maybe 3 people had the same question, but it's been answered, or, you know, something like that. So resolved comments disappear from that sidetrack area. So you have to go back in to the pane and open a comment if you want to actually view that comment again. We're not going to talk about it. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was an interesting feature. All right, so I am going to share my screen once again here. And I'm going to go back
Use
here.
blog post November 2020. Edit.
All right, so if I press, let's go to a comment here. I'm going to use that command that you guys just told us about in the poll question, that Control-Shift
Please
apostrophe.
wait processing 5 items. Recommend adding this info.
All right, so here we have a comment I'm going to press. Oh, wait, I've already replied to that one.
Elizabeth White, add closed quote.
All right, I'll press enter on this one that says I need to add a closed quote.
Enter, blank, edit.
All right. Actually, it just occurred to me I probably didn't need to do that, but okay. Alt-R.
Upper ribbon, R.
And then N.
N, leaving menus, leaving ribbons. Elizabeth Whitaker, comment, edit, comment pane.
So
Blank. Applications menu, copy, reply, delete, resolve.
So I actually used the applications key. I wanted to make sure that was where I thought it was. You can, okay, so go to the place where you want to reply to a comment, and then you can press Alt R and N to go to the comment pane. And then you're going to press Shift F10 or the applications key to open a context menu.
Reply to comment M.
And so I can down arrow to reply to comment.
Delete comment D.
I can delete the comment.
Resolve comment O.
Or I can resolve it. Let's go to reply.
Delete reply to comment M.
And I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Leaving menus. Elizabeth Whitaker comment edit.
And I'll just
period.
Type a reply.
Thanks, I missed that.
And then I can hit escape.
Escape. Selected. Escape.
And I can get out of that completely. So let's go back in and let's see if that comment is there by pressing Control Shift apostrophe.
Please wait, processing 6 items.
And we have 6 items. So let's go back and find that reply.
Reply, thanks, I missed that. Elizabeth Whitaker 2, deck 40, add closed.
Oh, I think I replied to the wrong one. Okay, well,
reply.
Either way. So from here, I can press enter.
Enter, blank, selected, space,
and that takes me to the place where that comment or that reply to that comment is. And then if I press Alt N R, Alt R, N,
leaving menus, leaving ribbons, Elizabeth Whitaker comment edit, add closed quote, add closed quote.
Yeah, I think I've messed up somehow here, but let's see.
Application, delete, reply to comment, enter, leaving menus, Elizabeth Whitaker comment edit, blank, S, enter, escape, selected.
All right, so let me see what I've done here. So if I go back to Control Shift apostrophe.
Please wait, processing 7.
And I go down here.
Reply, great info, Elizabeth White, reply, thanks, I missed that. Add, reply, thanks, Elizabeth Whitaker 2.
All right, so I'm going to press enter.
Blank, selected, end task.
And let's try just pressing applications here and see if we get reply. I was trying to get to where, now I think we have to do Alt N, Alt R N.
Up R N, leaving menus, leaving remind readers how to nominate a student. Remind 8.97.
So for whatever reason, I'm not finding the place, the exact place where I thought I would be.
Escape.
I'm not quite sure why that is, but that's how you can go in and
edit as comment the Freedom Scientific.
Okay.
Please review.
It's worked this morning. I promise I did this morning.
Add reply. Thanks, Elizabeth Whitaker 2.
All right, let's just try this. If I go Alt R
up
N,
leaving menus, leaving remind 8.97,
and then
Alt R upper N, leaving menus, leaving recommend adding this info.
Okay, so here's what I can do. I can keep hitting Alt R N.
Alt R upper N, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, Elizabeth. Great info, thank you.
Okay, so Alt R N repeatedly takes me through the comments. All right, sorry about that. Alt R
upper N, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, Deborah Sally comment edit, add closed quote.
All right, so that takes me to the comments.
Alt R upper ribbon N, leaving menus, leaving ribbons, Elizabeth Whitaker comment edit, blank. Alt R up N, leaving menus, leaving thanks.
All right, so I press that enough times, and there's probably a much easier way to get there, but I press that enough times that it gets me to the reply. And so you can delete a reply the same way that you delete a comment, which is to say you can press Shift F10 or applications key.
Applications menu.
And you can go down here.
Delete comment.
And I can delete comment.
Resolve font delete enter leaving menus print view edit. Like JAWS canvas.
All right, so sorry about that. I know that probably confused. It was probably confusing. So what I had done wrong was I forgot that you have to press Alt R and then N each time. So if I'm on a comment, I can press Alt R and N and it'll go to the next comment. And then Alt R and V for Victor goes to the previous comment. So if you want to edit a comment, that's what you have to do. So sorry about that. That was my mistake there. So let's
JAWS home
go
meeting
to
control.
the last
Alt S.
slide on deleting comments.
Great. I will share my screen.
And I'll do that very quickly. I'm just gonna.
Yes, we got about 11 minutes.
Okay, I can do this really quickly. So you can delete comments one at a time, or you can delete them all at once, just like revisions. And you can use the keyboard, of course. So to delete a comment in the context menu, as you saw, you go to the comment, you press Alt-R followed by N until you get to the comment, and that's in the comments pane. And then you press either Shift F10 or the applications key. You go down to delete comment and you press Enter, and that deletes them one at a time. And you delete a reply the same way because they show up in that comments pane. So you delete a reply the same way. Now, you can also navigate to the comment in your document, and you can press Alt plus R followed by D and the letter D again to delete it. And then to delete them all, you press Alt R, D, then O. All right, so let me share very quickly. And all right,
Meeting
so
used JAWS home blog post.
I'm going to
blog
delete them all. So if I press Alt R
Alt R upper ribbon.
and then D,
D menu leaving menus delete Alt.
now I could press Enter here on delete just one comment, or I could press letter D, or I could press O and delete them all, or I could tab to it. But I'm going to press O.
O leaving menus upper ribbon review tab.
And I'm going to escape out of the ribbon.
Escape like JAWS.
All right, now let's try our Control Shift apostrophe.
There are no comments in the document.
And there we go. So, and I will just tell you this because it's an interesting thing to note. If you have a document that you're going to post, for example, on WordPress or another blog type situation, and you're going to be copying and pasting that document, make sure that A, you accept or reject all changes before you do that, and B, you delete all comments. Otherwise, it will actually take some of that text from those revisions or those comments and paste it there in your blog, and you don't want that. So, okay, two quick things. If you forget the JAWS commands, you can press Insert Space. We're going to press J for command search.
Search for JAWS commands dialog.
And then we can type track changes. Or you can type comments and then you press down arrow.
Heading level 3 link toggle track changes.
And there you go. And you have these show up in headings, so you can press H to move from one keyboard command to another. And you can press escape.
Escape. Blog post.
One more thing, if you press, and that is a JAWS thing, that's called command search. If you press Alt Q,
Alt Q ribbon,
that takes you to word search, and then you type in track changes or whatever there, comments, and then you press enter, and it will take you straight to those menus. So if you forget how to get to track changes or comments, you can get to it by pressing Alt Q, type what you want in the search box, and then down arrow. So all right, that is a lot of information.
Meeting control.
And I'm going to press Alt S.
Alt S.
And once again, sorry about the little confusion there, guys. That is how you delete comments. And let's take some questions.
Great. So I've thrown up the contact us page, and I'm going to drop these links in the chat. We've got our resource for Freedom Scientific training and the training at Vispero email. Okay. But let's go back and catch some of the questions that we've missed.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay. When track changes is on and you're inserting a comment, you can't get JAWS to say what you've typed. Why? As in, it just says blank as you try to make it read what you have typed.
I don't know. Now, see, when it read to me when I typed the comment and I had track changes on, I inserted it just a few minutes ago. I was able to press insert up arrow to read the current line. But feel free to send me an email if you're having trouble with that, and we'll try to figure out why that's happening. training@vispero.com.
All right. And then you've gotten some kudos not only for going through a problem that a lot of people have had and navigating your way out of it, but Amy just wants to thank you for showing us how you problem solve your way out of something. And that it was really fascinating to see the process of problem solving when an error was made and when JAWS or Word does not act as expected. So while it was like an uh-oh, I think it turned out into a really great learning moment.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So
And there's a question about copying the link out of a chat. If you're a JAWS user, I would virtualize your window. Person asking about copying a link out of the chat, I'm assuming you're a JAWS user. I would virtualize your window and then you'll be able to access it that way.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. So, Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through discoveries while we wrap up with some of our resources.
Okay, perfect. So whether we're talking about revisions or track changes or comments, they're all different and you can navigate all of them using various keystrokes. This is very keystroke intensive, but it's definitely the best way to do it. And all these tools make collaboration a lot easier, a lot more accessible for everyone working on the same document. There are resources out there to help you learn these things. I would strongly recommend, if you don't have it yet, get this handout, save it. This is one of the ones you're going to want to keep and definitely hang on to, because you'll use it, you'll turn back to it. 6 weeks from now, when you have to do a track changes and you forgot how to do it, you'll need this document. So this is definitely one, not just used for today. This is a definitely keep it in your documents, wherever your stuff is that you store these types of things in. This is one to hang on to for sure. So absolutely grab that document. Again, if you're having trouble getting the link, virtualize your window and the link will be there, or go to the APH homepage and do a search for Access Academy and you can find handouts that way. There's multiple ways to get to it. And you can get to other handouts you may have missed as well. They're navigated by month. So you'll pick December. So go through it that way. So let's go through now, finally, our resources. If you're looking for JAWS on quota, we have a $90 annual license available for JAWS. There's an $80 Zoom Text annual license. You can also get the JAWS Zoom Text Fusion software suite. That's $300 for that. And that is available on quota as well. So if you want one program or the other, you can go ahead and do that. If you want the whole suite, you can do that as well. So those options are available to you.
Thank you. And we've dropped those links in the chat. So Paul, a question came in. How do you virtualize JAWS?
I knew that was going to be the next question.
Yes.
Liz, can you remember it off the top of your head? I always have to tinker around with it and find it.
It is Insert Shift V. So if you're using a laptop, that's caps lock Shift V. And just be on the chat, like on that link, put your cursor on that link in the chat and press Insert Shift V or caps lock Shift V. And then you can navigate that information with your arrow keys. You can select and copy it and then press Escape to get rid of that virtualized window or that in the virtual viewer. And then you can paste it wherever you want.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, but Elizabeth, you're getting just tons of kudos in the chat from folks who have struggled with this for years, who are finally getting the information that they need. So thanks so much for being on Access Academy. We love having you. And it's so appropriate that we close out at least the webinars that Paul and I work on. This is the last of 2021. So we're going to see everybody in the new year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And we'll be back with Elizabeth learning more about JAWS.